Morning, everyone. My name is Daniel Karoma. I'm the business liaison officer here in Montgomery County. And as always, I really thank my colleague, Ruth Simple from
Good
the
morning.
finance department. She's the economic development manager. We are going to get started in about a minute or so. I see some people are still coming in into the webinar. Okay, good morning, everyone. Again, thank you so much for joining us. We are going to go just give you a high level overview of the program for those of you who may be joining us for the first time, but we'll go right into updates, and Ruth will give the updates, and then from there we will open it up for question and answering. So if you do have any questions, please you can type them into the chat box. So if you're joining us this morning and this is your first time, this is the Montgomery County Health Public Health Emergency Grant Program webinar, and we've been doing this for about the last 2 weeks before the program went live, and also we've been continuing the webinars to take questions. And again, we don't have all the questions, but what we'll do is that we'll try to get answers to the questions that we don't have the answers to, and then get back to the individuals. So for those of you who are joining for the first time, this program set up a $20 million grant for-profit and non-profit businesses. Also, sole proprietors are eligible to apply. The eligibility criteria is that you must have seen a significant decline in revenues, and the significant decline is defined by 50% or greater loss in revenues in the month of March. And also, your principal place of business must be in Montgomery County, and also the program, principal place of business in Montgomery County, you must have 50% or more if your principal place of business is not in the county, 50% or more of your employees working in the county, or 50% of your business gross sales in the county. The program was set up for employers that have 100 or fewer employees. And again, as I stated earlier, you have to demonstrate a significant loss in revenue, which is 50% or greater loss in revenue in the month of March. So that's basically the eligibility criteria. Let me also say that this is a public website, so I'm highlighting the website right here. Please, if you haven't applied yet, go to the website, especially pay attention to number two. Number two states in terms of the financials we're looking for. To simplify it, we're looking for 2 years historic financials. So if you haven't filed your 2019 yet, give us your 2018 and your 2017. Again, if you are a nonprofit, your 990. If you're a sole proprietor, independent contractor, your Schedule C. If you're sending your Schedule C, if you're able to scan in the last page of your taxes where you signed, please submit that. If not, just send the Schedule C by itself. In addition to that, I know we stated that quarterly financials, we are adjusting that to just the month of March. So if you have a P&L statement in the month of March, it makes it very, very easy and simple for folks like Ruth that are in the back end doing the reviews. If not, if you have 5 or fewer employees, you can submit a bank statement. But P&Ls are easier to basically go through. So with that being said, let me see. I just want to bring your attention again, if you're new to this site, we have the webinars. I'm highlighting that will continue all the way to Saturday. We have FAQs, and let me also say that we are updating the FAQs as well as we get answers to some of the questions that are coming up. And also, very importantly, let me click on this actually. Many of our business partners in the county, these are chambers of commerce, business groups, nonprofit groups. They've been very generous to us to help, people who are maybe struggling to apply, and so they've provided their information right here. You can reach out to any of them. Another thing you can notice that there's language capacity as well for various for many of these organizations. That if you need help in a certain language, you're able to get that assistance. Talking about language, we've provided in terms of eligibility, but infographics on eligibility, but also documentations required in the top 6 languages that are spoken in the county. So you can have that you can have the flyer in Amharic, in English, in French, in Korean, in Mandarin, in Spanish, and in Vietnamese. With that being said, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Ruth, and she will give us some updates.
Okay, thank you, Daniel. Good morning. As Daniel said, my name is Ruth Semple. I'm with the Montgomery County Department of Finance, and Daniel and I have been doing these webinars now for quite some time. And so I want to thank you all for dialing in and participating. So I'm one of the reviewers. So I actually have been reviewing grant applications like day and night over the weekend. The whole team is. So I'd be happy to share some insight with you about what we're seeing and try to help move things along faster for everybody. So as of right now, we have about 6,000 applications. And we get the question, well, you have so many applications, should I still continue to submit an application? If you have losses in March that are 50% or more than a typical month for you, then yes, please submit an application. We are still processing. We are actually getting some out the door. I can see now that we've got quite a few that are grant agreements are out, and we're waiting for them to come back. Several are in the process of being paid. It might be that some people actually get funds this week, certainly beginning of next week. So we're moving through. The best thing that you can do is when you submit an application, so you open up the application, it needs to be very complete and very concise and well packaged before you hit submit. And we need 2 years of historical financial information. I'm often opening up applications and there's only 1 year instead of 2. And then I have to go back to the applicant, send them an email, go back and forth, get information, and that takes time. It delays their approval, and it also slows me down. So we want to have complete applications. And one of the biggest ones that we found is that for the 2020 financials, we're really, really focusing on the month of March. So if you send information for 2020, you can either do it January, February, March, each month broken out, or just March. If you don't have that level of detail, then a March bank statement would be fine. We'll work with that. Reviewers, people ask all the time, like, oh, I made a mistake, I want to change this, I forgot to include that. Reviewers will reach back to you and ask for additional information. We may ask for clarification as we try to sort out whether you're eligible or not, and if you are, how much. We're working very hard to help as many people be as eligible as we can. We are not very harshly rejecting applications if they're missing a piece. We're trying to get them wrapped up real tight and make a decision as quickly as we can. We are also increasing our capacity to review. So the reviewer team is going to be increased so that we can get through these faster. I think we were hoping that our applications would be more complete and ready to run through. So we're finding that they're not. It takes time. So we're looking to add more capacity for the reviewers. I think we should also add that yesterday County Council added an additional $5 million to this program specifically for restaurant and retail. That's so cool. Now instead of $5 million specifically for retail and restaurant, there's now $10 million. So that was a change as of yesterday. So I think that's probably it for an update. Is there anything else you think I should mention, Daniel?
No, I think you've covered the most recent update from.
Oh, yeah. Oh, we should also talk about April.
Okay.
Yes. I'm sorry. April, we're getting lots of questions about losses that are incurred this month, during the month of April, May, June, July. I mean, many organizations have significant losses in April, and they know they're going to have significant losses in May and June. They know that already, and they're asking us to make a grant, to make a decision based on that information. And unfortunately, as the bill stands today, as this program was put together by County Council, and the county executive, we can only look at past historical losses. So that means the month of March, since that was when the public health emergency started. So we're looking at the month of March. We are not yet looking at April. Then people are asking, well, if I put in an application, can I just update it with my April information, or do I have to submit a whole new application for April? We've been discussing that internally and trying to decide the best way to move forward, and also how to handle that from a technical point of view. So we don't have good answer. We don't have a good answer to that question yet. We are working on it, and we'll keep you posted. I think people have been working on that for days to try to come up with a workable solution, workable logistics and process for that. So stay tuned. We hope to have something, some announcements about that particular issue in short order here.
Yeah, thank you so much, because that's a very, I think that came up yesterday, and thank you for bringing that up again. And sure. I think another one that another question that's been coming up is around the telework grant.
Oh yes.
I wanted to know if they could just apply for that. Do you want to give an update on that as well?
Sure. So as the bill was written, an applicant must be eligible for the entire grant. They have to be eligible, period, before they can get any grant money. And then the specific portion of it for teleworking. So we're not able to award a grant just for teleworking equipment unless you also are eligible and are approved for the rest of the grant program, if that makes sense. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, it does. Okay.
It's not a separate program. It's not a separate bucket of money. It's not a separate application. Mm-hmm. It's just a component of this $25 million that if you're eligible, you can get up to $75,000 plus you can get up to $2,500 for teleworking expenses. And for those, we're asking you to submit an invoice evidencing how much you've spent, or you can send us a commercial quote, like from Amazon or Best Buy or anywhere where you would buy your teleworking equipment, and you can send us a quote. And we're accepting expenses that are both hardware, software, anything that helps you telework.
Exactly. All right. I think that's really about it.
Okay.
Let's see if there are questions. Okay. Let me see. First question is, I've read close to 5,000 organizations have applied for funding. Should organizations still apply? Is there still a possibility of being funded? Franca, the answer to your question is yes. It's not a first come, first serve, and as a result of that, just because someone apply, or you have application number one, as we stated earlier, if you're not eligible, then obviously, you go to the organizations, the business or nonprofits that are eligible. So please tell nonprofits and businesses to continue to apply. When we close, as of now, we haven't closed the application yet. But when we do, or before we do, we will make sure we inform our business resource partners, our chamber partners, everybody. We'll also update this website as well. So if you keep coming to this website, you get updates on the program. So right now we don't have an application deadline, but when we do, we will basically announce it. So please, again, encourage nonprofits and businesses to apply. Just emphasize that, again, is the loss in March. And the month of March is what's been reviewed right now in terms of, so when they're applying, they need to provide an evidence, a financial history of the loss that the business or nonprofit had in the month of March. So the next question is, has there been a decision as to whether awardees will have a chance to get more than $10,000 later in the process, or is the 10,000 the limit? Which one do you take that one?
Sure. So the bill allows an eligible applicant to receive up to $75,000. We decided to do the first processing of up to $10,000 and 1,000 applications, and then sort of like take a pause and see where we are, which I think is where we are. We're not pausing, but we're evaluating for sure. Will there be and we are tracking. So for example, if I had an eligible application that was eligible for $35,000, I'm tracking both the $35,000 and then the $10,000 is the actual award to date as an initial payment. But we're keeping track of that additional $25,000, so we know how many dollars we're looking at, so we can be better informed as we roll along. If that would require additional funding or additional decisions, we'll need to get guidance from county executive on that issue. I know that's not the best answer, but that's the one we have. So we'll have to see how that goes. Mm-hmm. Someone also asked, what is the average of grants? With so many, are you generally providing less than 10,000? I don't have enough data in front of me to tell you what the average is. I can tell you from my own experience, I've probably looked at 50 of them so far. And I would say I have awarded several 10,000, and I did one as like just under 1,000. So it's kind of all over the place. I don't really have an average yet. And I think we'll have to, as we start getting more data, we'll get it out on our Data Montgomery website so we can track and see those kinds of numbers. Somebody says, how many applications have been reviewed? How many have been approved? In general, so these numbers shift and change constantly, like every 30 seconds. So as I took a peek this morning, I would say we have about 6,000 applications that we've received. We have 1,100 or so that are currently in the review stage. We have, I'm just going to use round numbers. We have, they're all different categories. We have some that are actually at the payment stage. Probably just under 100 there, maybe a little over 100 there. We have some that are denied. Got a couple hundred that are denied. So they're all over the place. We have another couple hundred in what we call the follow-up bucket, which are these are people we're going back to get additional information or clarification so that we can make a decision. So we're working through.
Yep. All right. Another question is, the additional $5 million that was approved by County Council will be used for family child care provider too? Paulina, the additional $5 million yesterday is to add to the provision that was placed in the bill to set aside 25% of the entire grant program for restaurant and retail storefronts. So which means that instead of just $5 million, which is 25% of the $20 million, now restaurants and retail storefronts, that bucket now has $10 million in it. But again, so family childcare provider, please, if you are one, apply, because we've seen a couple of them that have applied and even approved. So please, if you have a childcare, if you're a family childcare provider, please apply. Or if you know one, tell them to apply. All right. So Ruth, you want to take the next one?
Sure.
What is the most common reason for denial?
Yeah. The most common reason for denial by far is that applicants are not meeting the 50% revenue decline threshold.
Yep, that is it.
Yep, that's the number one reason for denial. We are going back and looking at that. I know we're trying to evaluate where are the, you know, we have so many that are not meeting 50. So they're making they're looking at data. People are gathering data. I'm doing reviews, but
That's
people are
correct.
looking at data and trying to evaluate whether that's whether that's right or not. So people are looking at that. But the number one reason is that companies are not meeting that 50% threshold by far.
Yeah. Okay. Let me see. So if you're joining us and you have questions, please type them into the chat box. If we have some time, and we do have time, and we don't have any more, we'll basically call on people to unmute themselves and ask live question, those who have not asked any question. But I see one just came in. How many applications have been approved? Paulina, it's hard to tell. We don't have the exact numbers on that because so the reviewers are positioned in groups and they're going through the reviews. And the thing is, we're trying to get this out as fast as possible. So that data is being collected, but we'll basically, and it's, of course, it's public data as well. So we'll make sure, no, excuse me, I take that back. The data is not categorized based on industries, right? So we're not capturing industries, or are we?
No, we are. We are.
Yeah? Okay.
Oh yeah. Oh
Okay.
yes. In the application, people are choosing their industry.
That's correct.
And then as a reviewer, I go in, when I look at that, I make sure I agree with that. So because this is important for those that are in retail and restaurants. We want to make sure people are classified appropriately in retail and restaurants, if that's the case.
Perfect. All right. So Paulina, the data will be made available then based on the industries.
Sure.
Perfect. Okay. I think that was the last question on the chat box. So if you do have a question, you haven't asked a question yet, please unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hi, Daniel.
Hey, hi, Max.
Hi. Thanks to you and Ruth and the entire team for taking this on and helping us with it. Ruth, yesterday you clarified that because I'm on an accrual basis and I did have cash coming in March, that I wouldn't be eligible for this. So
well, you may not. It depends on where your numbers fall. But
well, they're not nowhere near 50%.
Right.
So at this point, do I withdraw my application? Do I leave it in pending a possible decision to extend this to April?
No, I think you leave it in.
Okay.
And we'll go through it.
Okay.
Probably based on what you're telling me, I'm guessing that it'll fall into the denial bucket.
Mm-hmm.
We're right now not issuing a whole lot of denials. They get, every time we make a decision, I think every time we make a decision and it's either denied or approved, then there's a second peek at it.
That is correct.
And I think those that are falling in the denial bucket, we're holding back and looking, and in case we need to reevaluate those.
That's correct.
So that's probably where you're going to end up. And that also allows us to say, for example, if we could go into March and we could set it up so you could just submit your March financials and we can add it to your file. Mm-hmm. Then we could just do an evaluation based on, on April.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, so you're probably already either in or will be in the denial bucket, but that doesn't mean you'll get a firm denial.
Right.
Until we kind of sort this out. We are trying to figure this out as we go, for sure.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't withdraw.
Okay. Should I just ran a quick P&L for March. Is there a way to add that and then add in April? Should we get into April? Or should I wait for?
Well, if you have your March P&L, you can submit it to the email that's here on the website.
Okay.
And we do have the ability to then take your statement and add it to your application file.
Okay. Great.
Or what will happen is if it were to come to me, I would probably reach out to you and say, hey, do you have a March P&L?
Got it. Well, I'll be denied, but those numbers are there and available. And, my hit came this, I lost all my work in March.
Yes.
But I still had money coming in.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of folks where the real loss, especially for cash businesses and whatnot, seems to be towards the latter 2 and 3 weeks of March.
Yeah. but we're all getting down to
Yeah.
brass tacks here. So thank you. Okay.
Yes. Thank you.
And Max, I've actually highlighted the email address that you can send the P&L to as well.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Let me see. I think there's a question just came into the chat. Okay. All right. The question is, let me see. Are you actually issuing denials to applicants, or are they among our members who have said that they apply but have not heard anything? So Jane, no denial letters have gone out because, as Ruth said, there's still internal discussion around the 50%, and that has not been finalized yet. So an example, this is just an example. Let's say if the threshold was reduced instead of 50% to 25%, what is being looked at now is what is the spread and how many more businesses or nonprofits will be eligible if we have that wide of a spread. And so that decision has not been made yet. But I just want to give you an idea. For example, if the threshold was brought down in terms of the significant loss in revenue, if it was brought down to 25%, then if we see a significant amount of businesses being eligible, then that's the consideration that that's been made right now. So no denial letter has gone out. If someone has not received any feedback, it's two things: either the application is in process, which means they submitted a clean application, which is a good thing.
Well, maybe not.
Or they're waiting, or they're denied, or they're waiting for review.
Waiting for review.
So please, if someone reach out to you, because sometimes if I've gotten a couple of calls on this, where people are not checking their emails. So I would say, can you please go back and check your email? And I say, oh yes, okay, now I see, I receive an email from you guys. So please just let folks know that they need to be checking emails for those who are not checking emails, because primarily the method of communication back to the applicants are through email. Ruth, do you want to add anything to that?
No, I think that's right. I think that's a good answer. Thank you.
Okay.
Ruth, can I follow up on something that was on the prior question about March and April?
Sure.
So if somebody submitted an application already and didn't have significant March losses, and then May rolls around and submits those April losses,
right?
That information is added to their file.
I said we would like to do that. We need to figure that out.
Okay, because my concern about that, is the equity of people who didn't submit because they didn't have a loss, getting put in the back of the line because they didn't apply knowing they didn't have a loss.
Yeah, that's something that I think is being considered and discussed. How do we try to manage that?
Okay. Because I don't want to tell all my people apply today.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Thanks.
You're correct, Marilyn. So the idea is that once a decision is made on April's losses, then that will be communicated, and then those who have already applied can submit an updated. And we don't have that method yet, as we're
right. We got to figure that out. How we're going to do that.
Mm-hmm. And can I go back then to a previous question? Then if you go back and you say, okay, well, now we're going to go back and look at 25% losses as opposed to 50, we told people, if you don't have 50%, if you can't show 50% losses, don't apply. So then all of a sudden people, I could have shown a 25% loss for the month of March. Now I'm at the back of the line. So I think that's another thing to consider.
Yes.
You're looking at how to reshape the program after it's already been rolled out.
Yes.
So Jane, that's why that's been considered. And as I said, that's just an example that I gave. So as it is right now, 50% is the loss everyone has to show. And if that changes, definitely you would know, our business partners will know immediately once those changes are made. But again, it's been considered. Nothing has been done yet. So as of now, 50% is still the amount of loss that needs to be shown for the month of March. All right. Any other questions? If you haven't asked a question yet, please unmute yourself and go ahead and ask a question.
All right, Daniel and Ruth, this is Janice Freeman. I just want to chime in on that last remark because I've run into a number of people that don't have the 50%. Some have maybe 40, 35, 40 even, but because of the, what is accepted. So
Right.
I'm just chiming in to say maybe you could give some additional thought to the fact that those losses are pretty great for small businesses.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Janice.
Welcome, Janice. I mean, in fact, that's why the conversations are happening right now, because we don't want people to get so close to 50 and just because. But again, the decision has not been made yet. But we are internal advocates. We and many of you have been helping us in making sure that we're able to make that case internally. So that's what I can say for now, right, Ruth?
That's right.
All right. If you haven't asked a question yet, please unmute yourself and go ahead and ask a question. Okay. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I have asked a question, but if nobody else is asking, I thought I would just clarify. We've gotten some questions about how nonprofits should answer the industry question. So what kinds of categories are you looking for, particularly for those who provide a wide range of services?
So we have a drop-down list, and I don't have it memorized. I can't recite it to you at the moment. Maybe, Daniel, you can pull it up on that. Can you get into that? Okay. And what I would do is I would look over that drop-down list and I would pick the industry where the bulk of your work is. And you're just going to have to make the best choice that you can. We realize it's not always going to be a perfect fit for everyone. Just make the best decision that you can, best choice for your group.
Let me see.
It might be not in the sample. I wonder if it's just in the drop down in the actual application itself.
Not in the sample. Yes.
No, it's not in the sample.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you, though.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. Anyone else? Anyone? Even if you've asked a question, if you have a question or clarifying question, please go ahead and unmute yourself.
This is Janice again. Are you getting many applications for barbershops, beauty shops, and how are you handling those?
Yeah. Well, when I look over hey Janice, I've probably done I've done over 40, somewhere between 40 and 50. And I've looked at a couple of beauty shops, yes, hairdressers, nail salons, whatnot. And I think of one example that I did last night that's top of mind. It was a subchapter S corporation. So they submitted their Schedule Cs. So I looked at 2 years of Schedule Cs, and then they sent me their, they had a P&L for the first quarter, and it was broken out by month. So I looked at the top line revenue for March and compared that with the average top line revenues for the prior 2 years that I was able to get from their Schedule Cs. And then we look at, is there any deferment in their rent or any drop in payroll expense? And we make adjustments for that to come up with what we think is the loss.
And Janice, I can also say that there's some that are in the approval column as well.
Great.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, they get looked at just like all the others. Same approach.
Yep. All right, let's take one more. If there's anyone else who, again, you have any clarifying questions or you have a question, just unmute yourself.
The other thing I'd like to point out there is that the application asks for, how many employees did you have in January? How many do you have in March? And sometimes we're seeing significant drops in the number of employees, but we do not see a piece of information that describes what the reduction in the payroll expense is. So we have to go back to those companies and say, hey, I see your headcount is much lower now. What's the reduction of your payroll expense? So if you are having a drop in employees, please include the corresponding decline in your payroll expense. That'll save us some time.
Okay, and I just want to give 2 updates as we wrap up. The first one is a technological update. I got about 3 calls yesterday from people who are using Safari, Apple Safari browser to apply. Apparently, they were having some difficulties. So, especially for our chamber partners, our business resource partners, if you do get any question about that, what they will need to do is just clear the cache on their browser and then close the browser and then restart the application. What's happening is that apparently depending on the browsing history they have, they may not have enough cache in their browser to actually attach the document. So that's what's causing the application not to go further. The second one, let me pull up the sample application. There are folks who, when they get to this question right here, the use of funds question, this is just a sample application. There's already a percentage sign there. So if they put like 50% and or 20% or 30, no matter what the number is, but if they put the percentage sign when there's also there's always a percentage sign there. If they add any percentage sign, actually what happens is that when they click next, it would allow them to go, but they will not be able to go to the third page. So if anyone asks you, oh wow, you know what, I'm not able to go to the third page of the application, this most likely is the reason why. And once the next button is clicked, the browser actually saved the data. And what happens is that the same thing for those folks who are using a Safari. These folks they will have to again clear the cache and then come back because that data is already stored. So it would basically appear on the form as, like, for example, 50%. And because of that, it causes an error message to appear. So if somebody asks you, hey, I'm not able to go past, the third page, most likely this is the problem that they're facing. So again, tell them to clear the cache, close the browser, reopen the browser, and then reapply. All right. That being said, Ruth, any final any final message for folks who are on the line?
I think we've covered all the major issues at the moment.
I agree with you. But again, we want to thank, again, especially our business people.
Excuse me. Thank you. Sorry.
Who are on the line. Thank you so much for the work that you're doing. We appreciate you. And one last surprise. Today is Ruth's birthday.
Oh.
I have to break the news. So can everybody unmute yourself and wish Ruth a happy birthday, please?
Thank you, Daniel.
Happy birthday, Ruth.
Thank
Happy
you.
birthday.
Happy birthday. Enjoy.
Oh my gosh. Thank you all very much.
I had to do that, Ruth. I had to do that.
I
All right,
appreciate
everyone.
the good wishes. It's going to make my
Happy
day.
birthday.
Thank you.
So with that being said, we'll go ahead and end the session now. Thank you, everyone.
Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye.